Well, hello, kind folks of the world. Greetings. Welcome back to the Speed Street Podcast. We appreciate you guys. Appreciate everyone listening. Appreciate those who are on the Apples, on the Spotifys, on the Googles, on the wherever you listen, wherever you watch on the YouTubes. Just make sure you're subscribed to the podcast everywhere. Just do some self-evaluation. Let's check it out. Boom. Subscribe wherever we're at. Maybe let's type a review up. Maybe say, hey, we think you guys should wear costumes while you do this show. I don't know. Maybe you think that we should have like a stock market segment. I don't know. Probably not, because we wouldn't know what to do there. But
big
right
finance
now,
guys.
We're not finance guys yet, but I'm trying to be, because we're trying to find some money to go racing. So, welcome to the Speed Street Podcast. I am now doing this show off of my phone's internet, because Spectrum continues to try to ruin my day via the internet. So shout out Spectrum. They're probably not going to be my 2025 title sponsor for the IndyCar Series. If I do find one, probably not going to be them. But anyway, there's a lot to talk about this week. I just had a terrible protein shake, and that's not news, but there's a lot of other great news, because we are on track this week in NTT IndyCar Series vehicles. We have a test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There is 2 days of testing, and I'm going to read out the drivers that'll be testing so you guys know what's going on. It's kind of, it's not really like an official like testing type, oh, we're going to stream it, it's going to be cool. This is kind of more like a development test, I think, running a lot of cars with the hybrid, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think, they've done some testing before, but low number of vehicles. Now we're kind of like one car from every team. This is going to be the first test where you can really get after it and see what's going on. The tire test for Firestone as well. Firestone is going to be gathering some data. I will be participating. If you did not know that, I've been kind of sort of sprinkling it onto the social platforms. And then Juncos Hollinger today. We are recording this show on a Monday, but they were able to put up on their Instagram today that I obviously am smiling for testing week, because it's testing time and we're all very excited. And so, yeah, and also competed in a sports car race over the weekend, 8-hour sports car race. So, Chase, I don't know what you did this weekend other than bet on NASCAR successfully. Your boy Ricky Stenhouse won a race. That seemed like a very happy moment for you. And also, this coffee mug goes with you. The losers make excuses, winners make money. So shout out Chase.
Let's go. Yeah, it was a great weekend. Talladega. Whoo!
That was lot to discuss on that one, yeah.
There is, yeah. I mean, we're an IndyCar show. We're going to talk a lot of IndyCar today, but I will say, I call the man Ricky Super Speedway House. You never count him out at the Super Speedways. I mean, this man is, I hit him at the Daytona 500. That was a great win. So anytime it's a Super Speedway, just, throw some Stenhouse on your cards. Aside from that, though, had a good weekend. We got the Halloween festivities started.
All right.
My son has decided, my son decided he wants to be Ghostface for Halloween now. He's kind of he's entering his, I like horror movies and I'm going to face my fears by being the character I'm most afraid of era. So, it's a big move for him. He's facing fears in Halloween.
Real quick Halloween segment. I don't know what to be for Halloween this year. My girlfriend, Amy, she is very good at Halloween. Like, she comes up and designs her own costume every year, and it's like some sort of incredible pop star or actor or some sort of very recognizable figure in the world, and I am not that creative. And so if you have Halloween costume suggestions, and don't say yourself, that's dumb. That's not creative. No one goes as themselves for Halloween. Come on. That's not a costume. That's just you were too lazy to do anything. Don't say race car driver. That's also, again, creativity level 0. But please give us some ideas in the comments, in the Twitters, in the Instagrams, on the threads. If you're on the threads, I've been doing a bit more threading lately. I'm trying to expand the social platform network.
Shredding on thread, baby.
What Chase, do you have any top 3 suggestions on Halloween costumes at the moment? I don't know.
Man, I'm going to be honest. I would say I think you guys would be a great Team Rocket.
Okay.
You guys can make a...
I don't think she's going to do a couple's costume with me. She's far too cool and creative to do something with me. She would, but we would have to think about that for a long time. And I don't want to take away from any of her shine. You know what I mean? If she's going to be someone incredible, I don't want to be taking that down. You know what I mean? I let her live.
Yeah, you don't want to step into her spotlight. She's like Met Gala Halloween style. So
exactly,
you got to keep it. You got to keep it right with that. I don't know. Maybe you could be like a trash can. I feel like that's pretty. You could just put a trash bucket around you with armholes. You could walk around, just kind of be like a trash can. You could be. You could be one of the average Joes, dodgeball players. I think you make a good Vince Vaughn.
That's a classic. Yeah. You're right. I can see that.
I like that. Yeah. And you could also hit people with dodgeballs, and you could say, hey, it's a part of the costume.
Yeah, that's true. Just start throwing these foam balls at people. That would be a good one.
That's what
I'm
going
to think about it. So let me know what you guys think. That was our Halloween segment. That was our Halloween segment today. Sponsored by October.
Happy October.
We are in the month of October. It's wild. It's time is flying by. I'm actually very fortunate to be racing this late into the year. At the beginning of the year, I was not racing at all. Literally, my first race was the Indy 500. It felt like I was doing some nitro cross stuff, but it was kind of a weird feeling being so, I guess, completely irrelevant and not doing anything and not being able to hone my craft. And now we're just boom, racing. One off weekend since end of July. Which feels great. And let's talk a little bit about the 8-hour sports car race this weekend. There was also, for those that appreciate go-kart motor racing and some IndyCar drivers, there was also an endurance go-kart race going on Sunday at Newcastle Motorsports Park, which is a track that Joseph Newgarden and I grew up racing at. Joseph Newgarden was out there. Kiffin Simpson was out there. Will Power was out there. So a lot of folks were actually participating in motor races this weekend. I just text Joseph to get his read on how he did. He did not win that event. I text him. He said he was struggling. So imagine that. Joseph struggled in a motor race. Hey, it turns out that it's possible. So Joseph did not win. I did not see the results of that one. But this go-kart race is actually super cool. The RoboPong 200. RoboPong is actually Joseph's grandfather's company. They used to sponsor this event when we were growing up in the day. They're ping pong robots, incredible ping pong robots. He gave me one when I was younger, which was really cool. Shout out the Newgarden family. But this event used to be insane. There would be 70, 80, 115 karts trying to qualify for this race. There's a photo of me, Catherine Legg, Thomas Schechter, Dan Weldon did it. We had all kinds of it. Graham Rahal and I were teammates one year. So many IndyCar drivers used to do this event. 2 drivers and basically a 200-lap go-kart race, 200 miles, and a several-hour event. Super, super fun experience. And then it kind of went away, which was a shame. And then probably because we got older and all of us were now professional IndyCar drivers, a lot of us were. And now it's coming back. So shout out to the RoboPong 200 at Newcastle Motorsport Park, Mark Dismore's track out there. We need to revitalize this event. We need to get it back to 80 to 100 go-karts in that race because it was some of the wildest racing of all time and such a great experience. I think Graham and I finished third there one year. That might have been our best finish, and it was just a great time. So anyway. Shout out.
Do they have robots playing ping pong at the race, in the fan zone, for the experience?
You could test them. You can test them out. Yeah, so it's shooting ping pong balls at you, and you're just boom, smack, back and forth. It's kind of cool.
Oh, got you. So it's like a batting cage for ping pong.
Yeah, so it's like got a net back there, and it's recycling the balls, and it moves. So it's like I'm going to shoot some at the left, and then the right, and then the middle, and then it's actually pretty cool. I'm not going to lie, very, very cool. It's
Dude,
like a pop-a shot,
but sounds like
ping pong.
Exactly. That's where I was going.
Yes.
This is beautiful. I never knew this existed. I didn't know that Joseph's family had game like that. So that's
ping pong
that's something
moguls.
I need to check out.
Yeah, the Newgarden family are big ping pong moguls. So now you guys know.
He's got to be really good at that.
Oh, he's insane. That's why he had a charity ping pong tournament for like a couple of years down in Nashville. The guy is elite. He almost like probably could qualify for the Olympics level ping pong. So pretty impressive.
Why doesn't he? That's what I want to know. Like, why has Joseph not signed up for the ping pong Olympics?
That's a fair question. We'll have to ask him next time he's on the show. I think he could be a dual sport athlete. Yeah. LA 2028, Joseph Newgarden on the U.S. Olympic table tennis team. I think that'd be cool.
I would lose my mind, dude. I would lose. And I feel like I'm not the only one that would lose their mind if that happened. Like, I could see him with the sweatband around his head. Have him on his arms, dude. He would be all out.
Yeah, it'd be just elite. So that's, anyway, fun facts. Now you guys know. Yeah. But anyway, there was another motor race that another couple IndyCar drivers were participating in. Myself and Alex Palou, and then those who are deeper into the IndyCar fan base who knew Gabby Chavez, Zach Veach, also in this event. And it was very cool. I will say, quite an experience to be, like, it was a very long week. Like Wednesday we had practice, Thursday we had night practice, Friday we had another practice and a qualifying session, and then Saturday was 8 hours of racing. I was in a BMW M4 GT3 car with the Random Vandals racing team. They have a raccoon on the vehicle, which is very funny. They have a great livery, green, white, and black. I seem to be only driving green, white, and black cars recently.
Your colors.
Or green and black cars, which is cool. That was my helmet colors. Those are my helmet colors for the most part. And so, like, to tell you a little bit about how it works, also real quick, we didn't mention who's going to be on the show today. Marcus Armstrong is going to be on the show today. So shout out Marcus Armstrong.
There you go.
We're going to have a great conversation with Marcus Armstrong, a young stud, a man who can do a plank for like an hour, which is wild. So anyway, brief interlude into our story about sports car racing to let you know that we have a great guest today. So please stay tuned for that. But anyway, back to sports car racing. So this is kind of an international event. There were some teams that have come over from Europe, the Fanatec GT World Challenge, whatever it is. A lot of different names of series that I'm not really entirely sure what they are or what's going on there. But I know that the series, to have an event like this at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I think is very unique. I think it's very, very cool. Some not a ton of spectators, right? But saw some great folks, interacted with some folks that listened to the show. We appreciate those folks. Maybe there was 5,000, 10,000 people there. Like that's still pretty cool for, I think, a sports car race. A lot of good international drivers there. I was teammates with Connor DeFilippi, who's been on this show before. He's a BMW GTP driver, and Kenton Cook, who is a very good sports car racer as well. But the guys like Nicky Lawley's in it, Philip Eng, like guys that are all these GTP racers for the factory teams, they end up also in this race with their associated factory teams or associated customer teams, BMW or Chevrolet. You had Alexander Sims, guys, very good names that you recognize kind of throughout the sports car world. Augusto Farfus, Mauro Engel, Mikel Grenier, all these guys that, like, Mikel Grenier and I were teammates in like 2009 in Pro Mazda. Like wild, hilarious, basically like kind of like a reunion, like a class reunion. I saw Patrick Niederhauser, who actually qualified on pole for the event. Patrick Niederhauser raced with me in GP3 back in 2011, 12 and 13. We had a great time together racing back in the day. He's a great dude and has made his way into sports car racing. And Nicky Lawley, who was also part of that GP3 racing class, like back in 2012 and 13. So just good to see a lot of people that you don't really see that often or I don't see that often anymore. And it just made it so there was a lot of different human beings. Keanu Reeves was obviously there too. Not racing in the 8-hour race.
That's what I was going to ask about.
Yeah. Keanu was there. I did not get to meet Keanu. I am very disappointed. But I was right outside of his vehicle. I was sitting in our garage area, and the way the little Toyotas line up to go out on the track, like they all kind of line up in the pre-grid, and there's no one around. And I'm like, dude, he's right there. Like he's like John Wick is sitting in a small Toyota, ready to go racing.
It's a samurai Toyota.
Like, I know. Like, do I go there and be like, hey, I know you probably can't really hear me because you got earplugs in, you're in race car driver mode, but like, can I do a selfie that no one will recognize that it's you, but I will know that it's you? And I just didn't do it. Sometimes I wish I was more confident in doing things like that. But I did take a small video that I posted on my Instagram stories that I'm sure some people saw. It was cool to see him there. And there were some people there too that I noticed were camping. He did an autograph session too, which is wild. Like, I don't know how often celebrities of that level were a part of like a driver autograph session. And there, I recognized there were, because we did an autograph session as well before the 8-hour race at like 10 a.m. or something like that. And I could tell that there were some people maybe camped out there, like sitting around and kind of just hanging out. They were not there for our autograph session. I know that. But they were first in line for the Keanu Reeves autograph session. And I don't know how many hours those folks sat there. But shout out to those folks, because that's passion. I respect that. And I wish I would have done the same thing. I wish I would have got to just been like, Keanu, great. I mean, cool. Like, I don't even know what to say to you, but like, that would have been cool.
I think you did the right thing, though. I think that, you're going to wait. Because, like, if he did this once, like, he's got to do it again. Like, you don't just get in a car and have that kind of an experience and just not want to do it again. So I think that we'll probably see Keanu at more places. And plus, too, he's just one of the realest celebrities. So you're talking about the autograph session. I mean, this is a guy that literally rides the train. He rides the metro in New York City to get where he needs to go. This is one of the most down-to-earth dudes ever. And, like, as a huge fan of Keanu, like, I don't really... It might surprise you. I've never watched any of the John Wick films ever.
What? That is surprising.
Yeah, I've never watched any of them.
Very violent, but fantastic films.
That's what I've heard. I've heard about the dog, but, like, he's always going to be Neo to me. Or, like,
that's true.
When he was in Bill and Ted. The Bill and Ted movies.
I didn't watch The Matrix. I didn't watch The Matrix until very recently in my life. I had not seen any of the Matrix films until very recently on an airplane. I said, I need to watch films that I have not seen before because I'm not doing anything for several hours. So I got into The Matrix. And it's cool. Wow. It's a cool film series.
That's great. See, I was that was in my film, I guess, library mentally when I was like 9. So I was really just damaged by truths of cinema. Everybody's all talking about simulations these days. Like, imagine a 9-year-old watching The Matrix. I mean, that can do a lot to you.
Probably put you in a rough spot for a long time, but we're here now. We survived.
It did.
We survived.
We're back, though, dude. We're here.
Yeah, we're back.
And Keanu's racing cars now. So the universe is talking.
And I will say, poor Keanu did look a little lost on the racing track for a majority of the time. Now, again, he's very new to motor racing, I think. Obviously not competed in a lot of professional motor racing series or semi-professional motor racing series. And the camera was on him a lot, and I will say, he kept it clean, which is good. But it was kind of just funny to watch because racing is hard. And I think for people that don't really understand like how difficult it is to get on a track, and there are a lot of good drivers out there in this Toyota series too. Like, you got Townsend Bell's son, you got a lot of these young Toyota drivers that they put out there. Jade Abadassi and these young ladies that are really good at motorsport. Like, there's a lot of people in this racing series, and then Keanu's out there too. So it's not easy to jump into this racing series and just look like a hero. You know what I mean? So shout out Keanu for giving it a shot. And one of the guys,
so you played Gran Turismo.
I don't really know much about Dude Perfect, but I know they put balls in basketball hoops from weird places. So I shout out them. But anyway, that's besides the point. Sports car racing. So that was fun. We had a lot of practices, and the weird thing about sports car racing, and I remember this from doing the Rolex 24 a couple times. People who don't know me for very long, I've done the Rolex 24 a couple times in the Prototype Challenge class, 2015, 2017. But when you practice for these endurance races, you really don't get a ton of time in the car because you split the car with two other people. So when we go out to practice, it's like, all right, Kenton gets in, Connor gets in, me get in. Okay, cool. You did 6 laps, and then you go through the rotation again. So I think we might have done 12 laps or so before I got in for a qualifying session, which is, again, 3 laps. And I sometimes notice, like, there's obviously a multiple levels of drivers in this series as well. You have the pro, like a pro class, like the international pros, but then you also have some like pro-am guys as well. So there's some amateur racers out there who are, definitely at the limit of their mental capability. And so sometimes you just see things that you're like, I don't know how that happens. There's a lot of things like we're all gonna go out to qualify, and everyone wants clean track. And for some reason, when you have a clean track, then everyone's coming out of the pits at the same time, and you don't really know where the miscommunication is there on like, hey, we should probably understand where we're at. So I had a terrible qualifying session because I expected to do at least 1 or 2 laps clear. That never happened. But hey, that's sports car racing. Qualifying doesn't really matter. But we did actually start 9th overall. It was like 25 cars, I think. So good effort from the boys. Cool to be in the top half, the front half of the field. And Alex Palou was also in the race as well. Alex Palou was in a Mercedes. He started on the front row. Alex Palou, turns out, good at everything. And we were chirping each other all day long. Like, we were trying to figure out, because it looked like on race pace, his car maybe wasn't as good, but they could really put together some quick laps. And then as soon as the race started, we got up to 3rd right out the gate, and Alex did not start the race, but Alex's car went backwards. And I was like, my man, what happened to you guys over there? So it was very funny to kind of see the chirp in our text thread as the race went on, because we actually were running very strong for the beginning of the race. I did not start the race either. Kenton Cook, my teammate, started. Then Connor DeFilippi went in, and then I was 3rd in the rotation, and I was going to do a double stint. And then so basically a stint length, to give people like an idea, is a maximum of basically 65 minutes. So I would have done 2 stints in a row, about an hour, 10 minutes ish, or sorry, 2 hours, 10 minutes ish. And, the goal is to make sure everyone's fresh, but also, you want to have probably the person with the most experience in the car in at the end to finish the race. So, we had a great event going, and let me kind of explain the difficulties of being an IndyCar driver and jumping into this. It was funny to talk to Alex about the differences in the cars, right? He's like, man, I'm having to drive this car way harder than I am driving an IndyCar, because the ABS, these cars, like, let's say, okay, IndyCar has no power steering, no assists of any kind, like no ABS, no TC, traction control, nothing that helps the driver at all, right? We're just out there like raw driving. Like, that's it. Like, it's just everything. You feel everything through the steering wheel. You have to have a perfect brake shape. And when people mention brake shape, you have to hit the brake really hard initially and then slowly bleed off, not locking up any tires.
Just dogging it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so where the sports cars differ is that almost anyone can brake as late as I can, right? Because when you hit the brakes as hard as you can with ABS, the ABS does the work. You're not locking tires. You just hammer that pedal as hard as you can, and you hold on to it for as long as you need to. And so it kind of takes the art of braking away a little bit, but it also means that for us, and it's interesting, both Alex and I think, struggle with the same thing. You to get the car to turn, you have to hang on to the brake for a little bit longer than like we would have to expect in an IndyCar. And that's a real challenge. So to kind of get used to the differences, it's a very heavy car. You got ABS and you got traction control. So you can also get on the throttle and let the electronics do the work. You got power steering. I even had AC in my car. Now, AC doesn't really work when you're going at, doing 2.5 hour stints. Like I still got out of the car and people were like, oh my gosh, you sweat so much. I'm like, I feel like okay. I mean, I just sweat standing up, so it's not really an issue.
You stay in the seats, Connor.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a very interesting championship as well, because I think everyone was so close. Like there's Porsches, there's Ferraris, there's BMWs, there's Mercedes, there's all these, there's Corvettes, there's all these different manufacturers, and you saw so many people all with it. Like the last practice, we realized that we were, I think, I don't know, like 12th or 13th, there's something in practice. But if we found not like just a couple hundredths, but not even a tenth would have put us like 10 positions further. So it was very close between all the manufacturers, which means that the racing is tough because the straights aren't quite long enough to get a huge draft, but you're trying to make it work. Some cars are better in the, sector 2, like in the middle of the track, through all the corners. Some cars accelerate better than the others. The BMW seemed to have a good top end, but you had to really make sure you got there first. So quite an interesting experience. And it was fun. We were in a great spot, trying to make our way to the podium. I got in the car. I think we were like fourth overall. And the first stint that I had, we were on some used tires, which were difficult for me. It's a Pirelli tire, and we have tire warmers too. Imagine that. Like, I think I talked a little bit about this at Barber, but all the teams have tire warmers, which is astounding. I don't really know of any other place in the world that uses tire warmers anymore, other than Formula One. But when you put on these tires, you're going out of the pits and you're on the gas right out the gate because the tires are hot. It's incredible. Like it's a fascinating feeling, and it's actually quite enjoyable. But
marvels of technology, huh?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Put the tires in the oven and get them all nice and warm, and then you're going racing.
It's like the glove in baseball back when I was a young boy. You want to get that mitt ready to go.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you, too, because I was watching a lot of your stuff on your Instagram story. You had a bet with Alex Palou, didn't you? What was this bet that you guys made? How did that play out?
Yeah, we made a friendly bet. The bet was that if I were to beat him, he would buy me a bottle of bourbon of some kind. I do enjoy some bourbon. That's a delicious beverage, a delicious additive to my life. And if he beat me, I would buy him $100 worth of diapers because he's a dad. You know what I mean? And he doesn't play video games anymore. He just focuses on being a dad, which is probably the most important thing. So I obviously lost that bet. He did, in fact, beat me, but we both had rough days. Like, Alex went 2 laps down early on. When I got in the car, he also was in the car, I think about halfway through my stint. So we were on track at the same time. And I had actually, when I got into my second set of tires after our first stint, we were flying. Like, we were on pace to get into the top 3. We were on pace to kind of be about as good as we could have been. We definitely didn't have the pace to win. But with how many people were having some more issues and how many people kind of faded towards the end, we were in great shape. But as it happens, I get to the end of my double stint. I'm like, okay, cool. That was a great time. I got stuck behind an Acura, which was Zach Veach's car. But Zach and Gabby Chavez were teammates in the same car. And their third driver, I believe, he was a lap down and trying to block me every chance that he got, which seemed a bit irrelevant. And I'm still a little bit upset about it because I don't really understand why that was happening. But didn't really matter. I wasn't going to sacrifice my vehicle to try to make a pass on this fella. But I've never seen the flag marshals were waving the blue flag at this guy so aggressively. And every time I would try to poke my nose out to pass, he would just like, oh no, like chop. And I was like, okay, well, this is going well. And so, it's a bit of a disaster out there at times. There are some people that put themselves in a very bad spot, but you got to realize as well, in this type of racing, there's a lot of very good drivers. But there's also some people that are kind of scary to drive against, and
that scream,
definitely
"Oh no!" when they're about
definitely
to get
found a few of those out there, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is appalling what is happening."
That's how you make messes real quick.
With six-figure sports cars, people are throwing them around like they're little Lego toys. Like it was absurd. But we made it through okay. and we were about to
We got to show out for Keanu, dude.
Show out for Keanu. Yeah. Make him proud. But that was tough. But again, a lot of really good drivers in this championship, and it was fun to race with a lot of people. Not fun to race with a small percentage. But I'm like, okay, here we go. 2 laps to go in my stint. Car just dies. Car dies coming out of 7. And we had an issue at the Barber race, if you guys remember me talking about that one, where the car didn't get enough fuel. So the first thing I saw was fuel pressure. I was like, oh no, not again. Same thing. But this was actually an entirely different situation. There was actually a decoupling of something in the fuel system that basically meant that the engine just wasn't getting any fuel. So I had to be towed back to the garage. And essentially, once that happens, your day's over. The team did a great job, though. They fixed the car, and they put Connor back in, other Connor, not me, to get back out there. And just, obviously we want to get experience in this car. We want to keep running. And we had a great, Connor was running really quick the whole time. Like it's such a shame because we could have been on the podium. We could have been in the right spot if you keep going the way you're going. And then towards the end of Connor's stint, the same problem happens, and we have to go to the garage again. And so it wasn't worth it to just fix it again and cause another full course yellow. So we had to retire the car. But yeah, so that means Alex Palou, he kept going. They were doing great. Well, they were doing okay. And then Alex's car, for some reason, it part of this race was at night, and his headlights didn't turn on. So all the car, you have to have headlights at night, and Alex's headlights didn't turn on. And I don't know what was going on, but they had some electrical issues, it seemed. And so I don't think they could finish the race because they couldn't get the headlights on. So
I saw your story about that. You're like, you got to turn on the lights, Alex. You got to. You can't just run through people.
It was very funny because I was watching from the roof. I was watching the race from the roof of the pagoda to get a nice little sunset view. Had my lady up there, Amy up there, my mom and Doug. We were just kind of watching the race. My little brother Carter, and I was like, I don't think Alex can keep running with the sun going down. Like I think they have to stop. And sure enough, they did. And so Alex and I both had had some rough days at the motor racing circuit, but it was a fun time to be a part of that event. Shout out to the Random Vandals racing team, great group of people there, longtime supporters of mine. And it was cool to see a lot of folks at the Speedway. The weather was fantastic. I love the idea. I think there should be a 12-hour race at the Speedway. I think we should have some more night racing there. I think it was very cool experience to do a little bit of night practice. I got to do the night practice run and kind of get out there at night. And that was a lot of fun. So hopefully people enjoyed it. If you were out there, let me know what you thought of it. It was a cool deal. So that's our sports car review, sports car summary. Hopefully you enjoyed the comparisons there. But let's talk about IndyCar. What do you think, Chase? Let's talk about IndyCar. We got some cool news.
It's time to talk. There's been some minor rumblings, I would say. We're coming off of the speculation of a certain race in a certain state that is very large. Starts with a T. It's Texas. I know that was a big story, and there's some other news that is slowly trickling out there. Connor, I'll let you take it away. What have you heard, Connor? What's the word on the street?
Well, one thing that I did notice that I meant to say on last week's show, but I did not get to it. But before we get to all the news, something that I find cool, actually, I was kind of perusing the YouTube space, and something that folks enjoyed previously, but then it went away. IndyCar is actually posting full races on YouTube, and I can see when they're dated to premiere, which looks like in the first month of 2025. I don't know if they're going to come out any sooner, but have a look at the IndyCar YouTube channel because I think you're going to be able to watch full races on YouTube, which is really cool. I'm glad that they're doing that. I just happened to kind of peruse that, and I assume that just means that the IndyCar TV deal with NBC is over, so they now can post that. But that's cool for IndyCar fans. Hey, if you want to watch the Road America race from 2024 last year, like now you can just watch it. You don't have to have a Peacock subscription. You don't have to have any subscription. It's just there. So it's free.
Beautiful.
So you can watch it. So that's kind of cool. I like that for IndyCar's YouTube channel. But keep an eye out for that. It doesn't look like it's going to be this year, but probably 2025. But I might be wrong. I know they're live streaming a couple of the races. I saw that as well. But yeah, let's talk about the Dallas street race that's been announced today. We are recording this show on a Monday because I have some things to do on a Tuesday, and the announcement is literally happening as we are talking, if not right after we finish recording. But the Arlington street race, very exciting news, I think, for IndyCar. We obviously gave a few opinions about it last week, but Jerry Jones is apparently involved, helping to run the event potentially. I've just kind of I got some sourcing, some information, and again, hope this is obviously correct. Yeah, but Jerry Jones helping with the event, I think, is good for business, good for us. Hopefully, that means that promotion is high, promotion is up, and that will be coming in 2026. I don't have the date on that. Let me ask my source for the date. But Chase, what do you think about that? I mean, Arlington street race. How do we feel?
Well, we're calling it Arlington. We're calling it
let's go Arlington. That's the way it was. That's the way it was presented to me.
Let's start with that. I think it's great that they're calling it the Arlington street race because we're not trying to centralize. We're actually saying where it's at. Arlington is a big part of Dallas, and that's where all the sports happen in Dallas, pretty much. So I think it's good that we're calling it what it is, where it is. On the other side of that, still stand firm that there's a lot of room for potential evolution in the future of how this event can go. But I do think that having the confirmation that Jerry Jones is involved, this is good because every Dallas Cowboys fan worships Jerry Jones and they'll listen to anything he says. So if they tell him, if he tells them to watch this race, we're going to have some good numbers. We'll have some good, the Cowboy fans. I want to see the Cowboys mascot there. I want to see a lot of people wearing cowboy hats, oversized hats, kind of a lot of boots. I want to see drivers wearing a lot of boots. I want to see it. I want it to show out. Now the layout is the other thing. I guess we're waiting on. We're waiting on what this layout looks like. Correct?
Yeah, I think sadly, we're recording this show around 12:45, and I know the announcement's coming out around 2 p.m. We are going to interview Marcus Armstrong at around 2 p.m. So if we get any more information, we'll maybe throw it out to the Marcus interview. Maybe you'll hear it later in the show. But I assume that they might have a general layout. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't seen the press release. But it is, I know there's a lot of people's opinions about it. We've talked a lot about it. We've seen a lot about it. If the event is done correct, as we mentioned last week, I think it could be great. So let's not, but I mean, I think we will all be first to, not slander it, but be like, hey, we know what works for a street race.
It's easy to do that.
The proof is right out there. So let's just figure it out. So
let's see where this goes, guys. Let's have some fun.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I hope it's awesome. And the fact that if Jerry's involved, we've heard that Jerry's involved, that would be great. But yeah, that's come out today. You'll definitely know that by the time our show releases. Obviously, our show comes out on a Wednesday, so feel free to check that out if you haven't heard about it yet. But also this week is an IMS test that we mentioned. So let's go through the drivers that we know of. This isn't going to be like, hey, here's the entry list type thing, because, some drivers, I would say, for this test aren't necessarily confirmed for next year, like myself included. So there's going to be some question marks, but people need to do this test. This is a very important test day. So let me read through it for you guys. So Thursday, Friday, Thursday, 9 a.m. to noon is ROP, which apparently is Nolan Siegel. This I don't understand at all. That essentially just gives McLaren an extra few sets of tires. Nolan did ROP, but I guess there's something in the rules that, like, if you don't make the race, you have to do it again. I'm not really entirely sure on the situation there, but McLaren definitely, and Nolan also did the last oval race, so I don't understand how this applies to Nolan Siegel, but shout out McLaren for getting an extra few sets of tires and some hours of testing. So that's probably helpful for them. Got to play the rules as you can play them. And then 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. is a 4-car tire test. I believe the folks participating in this tire test are Marcus Ericsson, Joseph Newgarden, Pato O'Ward, and Alex Below. So that'll be a good test for Firestone to kind of check some things out. And then Friday, which is the day that I am participating in, 10 a.m. to noon, and then 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., 11 cars, 1 per team. So Andretti is going to be running Ericsson. Foyt is going to be running Ferrucci. Arrow McLaren is going to be running Lundgaard. Obviously, his first day out with the team. Chip Ganassi Racing will be Alex Palou. I don't want to comment on one of the teams yet. I believe DCR is still TBD. So Dale Coyne Racing, TBD, but I believe I know who's going to be in the car, but I will not be the ones to release that news. Dreyer Reinbold is testing as well. Great team. They're testing with Ryan Hunter-Reay. Obviously, because I am also busy, but Ryan is he's the guy there, which is great for them to be testing. I'm actually super happy because obviously I think I could still, if we don't end up full time with JHR, I would love to be doing the 500 again with Dreyer Reinbold. That would be the goal. So glad that they're testing there. ECR is there with Alex Rossi, of course. Boom, back on track with your new home. JHR has a driver by the name of Connor Daly testing for them. That's very exciting.
Know that guy. Him.
Yeah. Meyer Shank Racing has actually Elio Castroneves testing for them. So Elio, obviously, in their third car. I am actually kind of surprised that they're having him test, but I know Felix is either still on his honeymoon or something like that. And I'm not sure how that works, but they're running Castroneves. Aurelio is running.
Got to give it time,
of course. Aurelio is running Graham. And Team Penske is running Joseph Newgarden, of course. Obviously, I think Scott McLaughlin is on baby watch right now, so probably more important for him to be doing baby watch, and Joseph Newgarden can do the test. So that's who you'll be seeing at the IndyCar test in this week. So I'm very excited to get out there. I believe, from what I've heard so far, we probably won't be able to do a ton of laps. I believe we're a bit tire limited on that. But we'll see. I think it'll be cool to just get out there. It'll cool to be in an IndyCar again. Great to be just doing work, trying to get ready for next year. If I can end up at JHR, I had so many people come up to me over the weekend, and everyone asked the same question, and I really appreciate it. But it's like, has JHR signed you yet? Or when are you announcing 2025? And it's like, guys, that just doesn't happen. Like that's not I love that people believe that teams can just do that, but a lot a team like JHR, there has to be a financial element. There has to be someone there to support the signing of a driver, right? And so I don't have the sponsorship right now, right? Am I working on it? Yeah, we have a lot of great irons in the fire with a lot of folks that could come back and be supporters of us or to step up their level of support. But I appreciate those that are like, wow, we can't believe that you're not signed there yet, but it costs a lot of money to go racing, and until either party gets it, that we can't do anything. So it feels good to know that people want us to be there. It does feel right to be there. I'm working my butt off every day to try to gather the support to be there, but it is, millions of dollars is hard to raise for anyone. There's a lot of drivers in the same boat. But yeah, Chase, I assume if there was some streaming, I don't think anyone's streaming this test, but as of course,
wanted to ask, where can you watch this? Where can this be found?
I don't even know if the
fans?
track's going to be open. I hope that people can watch, if they come into the speedway, they can maybe park somewhere and watch. That would be kind of cool if that was possible. The weather looks great. Weather looks great this week in Indy. I doubt there will be a streaming element to the test because I think there will be a lot of things going on that teams want to do. Maybe not in the public atmosphere. A lot of testing with the hybrid stuff, a lot of different things like that. But there will definitely be a results page that everyone can overreact to. So can't wait to see that one. There will be a PR page that I'm sure someone will be like, oh, so-and-so was fastest at the test. Like if Elio's fastest at the test, he'll be like 5-time champ coming up. Here we go. We can write over speculative articles for the next 3 months about it. But that'll be cool. So I can't wait for a bit of speculating. I hope to be P1 so we can over speculate about myself. That'd be great, but we'll see what happens.
You can do it.
So very excited about that. This week also, I believe that we are going to hear some driver news. I am not going to be, I know who it is. I am not going to be the one to release it because let's say, things can change per day. This is a Monday. We have to be careful. But I do believe this week there will be a driver announcement for a team, and there will be. I believe it's a good thing. It's something that makes sense. So keep your eye out for an announcement. If you're listening to this on a Wednesday morning, I was told that the announcement could come out on a Wednesday. So let's keep that information to ourselves because we respect the process. We respect the system.
We're like the number one IndyCar show for teasing news. We really are.
Teasing news. Yeah, it's true.
We're news teasers.
So we're gonna tease some news. Definitely stay tuned. It's not me, I can promise you that. But I have heard that there is a driver announcement of some kind approaching, so stay tuned for that. And other than that, boy, there's still a lot of silly season to be sorted out. So we'll see what happens. We saw a lot of McLaren folks were out at the Velocity Invitational out in California, which I don't know what that is, but it looks like millions of dollars worth of cars, and they let Tony Kanaan and all the rest of the McLaren drivers just thrash around in them. Travis Pastrana was even out there too. We got our first photos of Christian Lundgaard in a McLaren suit. Looks like a totally different guy. And by that, I mean not really, but Christian Lundgaard without glasses, though, as well. Without glasses, so where he's got his contacts in. Yeah, big papaya guy now. So yeah, that's kind of on the IndyCar news front. That's really all we got coming up. So I'm excited to see what happens this week. It'll be fun to get into a car again. But obviously there was a Talladega race, Chase. We'll get to Marcus Armstrong here in a second. NASCAR, we're not a NASCAR show, but a lot of drivers seem to be upset with the Super Speedway package, and I did drive the Super Speedway package, Gen whatever this is car, and it's a tough one to watch sometimes. One of the biggest wrecks I've ever seen. It does seem like Brad Keselowski causes a lot of those wrecks, and this is just an outsider looking in. It does seem like that happens often. I don't know that.
Talk about it
as a speculator. And I've met Brad. Seems like a nice guy. But yeah, that was a weird one. Big crash.
We love Brad.
And then trying to get all these cars back. It was like a 30-minute red flag. It felt like I was watching on my phone. But that was a wild one. I don't know how I felt about that one.
Aside from that, though, let's talk about the fact we had 4 wide racing at Talladega, and the guys were maintaining. That was beautiful. That's stuff that I love to watch. Like, when it comes to Talladega, a lot of the people in the South, they're like, yeah, we're going to Talladega, we're going to drink some beer, we're going to watch some Ricks. Like, that's how
pretty
a
much
lot
what
of
it is,
Southerners...
honestly. I will, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a festival of booze and wrecks. But the beauty of it is that with Gen 7, I think some of the problems that they've been having are kind of coming from when these cars are, the tires are going flat. That's been the big one, right? Kind of talked very briefly about the Josh Berry deal in Kansas last year. And you saw in the big one when they piled up, there was drivers like Chase Briscoe was one of them. He was basically telling safety, do not take my window net down. Yeah. Because that's the whole rule of it, right? It's like if that window net drops, you're done. And you're out, and that's your day. Some of these guys are in the playoffs. And when their car just slides off, they want to get back on track. They're like, hey, all we got to do is get new tires on this car and we're good. So that's where that whole issue was coming from. And there was a lot of people discussing that last week going into this week. And so it was good to see some guys be able to get back on track. And even though it didn't really work out the way they wanted to. This is an issue now that's happening in NASCAR. It's another one of the piling up issues they're going to have to add. But overall, Talladega, I mean, I thought it was a good race. Everyone always talks about the big one. The big one's like a natural thing at this point. These Gen 7 cars, very safe. So when you see those kind of things, I don't think a lot of NASCAR fans react as concerned as they used to, especially after you've watched Ryan Preece do like a million flips off of Talladega Nights and then just kind of get out and be like, his eyes were kind of swole, but he was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
One thing there alone.
Yeah, I think one thing that I obviously a lot of our folks that are listening to this show have probably shut it off by now, but it's I do enjoy watching this racing and having now been a part of it at Daytona. It's a similar type of race, obviously not as wide of a track and a little bit different, but it's a super speedway race. And having seen kind of how that works and how that plays out, it's tough to see because people. There's been a lot of chatter recently in that world about how you can't really move drivers around with air and stuff like that. Like in the Xfinity car, you can. So I understand that there could be problems there, but I hope they find a good solution. I really do, because I think a lot of that racing can be entertaining. I hate that it does become a wreck fest. I do enjoy the fact that they did finish the race, right? We did the overtime, white flag, and we came to the checker without, a huge disaster.
Clean finish.
That
baby,
I was like, okay, thank you. Like, hey, it's real close. Ricky Stenhouse wins, but like, it was one of those things that I enjoyed. I enjoy seeing a tight, crazy finish, and I love listening to the spotters. The NASCAR spotters, again, are still very, very enjoyable to listen to. If you hate NASCAR with every fiber in your body, like, that's fine. But I think there's some entertainment there that can be found and some stuff that's like, oh, that's kind of cool, actually. I respect these guys, what they're doing. So that was wild. And still can't wait to see how the antitrust lawsuit plays out. That's wild.
That's going to be fun.
Crazy. Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan, and Front Row Motorsports out there getting into a lawsuit with NASCAR. Still cannot wait to see how that plays out. Love reading the headlines. Love seeing all kinds of, this is just crazy to follow. We're in a wild era of motorsport, and that, I believe, could affect many other forms of motorsport as well, should that go a certain way. I think there are a lot of people waiting to see, what happens there, because motorsport as a business, quite an interesting one. And I would say that if you were to try to compare that to the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, maybe not the MLB because they have some sort of other weird deal that someone told me about previously, but
they're all over the place.
It's not exactly super fair to everyone. I would say certainly not the drivers.
It's 1,000% not super fair to everybody. Let's be real.
Super not fair maybe to everyone. But we all love it, and racing is like an addiction for me. So it's oh yeah, I'll drive your car for free because I want to do my best. I mean, that's kind of crazy in the end of the day. There's no minimum salaries, right? In our professional sport, right? It's not like you get hired to drive a NASCAR Cup Series car or an Indy car. It's you are guaranteed to make $100,000. It's no, you might even lose money racing. So it's kind of a wild situation. And I think, again, I'm just curious to stay tuned because I think it could have an effect on the grand scheme of things. So anyway, that's our lawsuit talk for the day. I don't know anything. I don't know much about it.
I was going to say one last thing.
Yeah.
One last thing. I did get to briefly talk with Denny this past week, and I was just kind of letting him know a little bit about how I felt about the situation, and he hit me with the one-liner, and I'm leaving on this show, whether you're a NASCAR fan or not. It's time for change, and that's what he said. That's all he said.
2024, big year of change, apparently. Yeah, a lot going on the whole grand scheme of the world.
Let's make it.
So anyway, let's. I do think Michael Jordan is smart, and I think Denny Hamlin is smart. I like Denny, even though people don't like him. Boy, a lot of people don't like him. But he's got a podcast, and I think he speaks his mind, and I believe that he does want the business to be a pretty.
He's one of them real ones.
Yeah.
One of them real ones.
With that, let's get to our guest segment this week. A fantastic IndyCar driver who has obviously in a new spot for the future for this next year, and I can't wait to talk with him. I think he's got one of the most entertaining social media feeds. I think he's got quite a passionate fan base, and with that, we'll get to Marcus Armstrong. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this week we are very, very lucky to have a young man who has really made an impact in our sport in a very short amount of time. He's come in and he's been very fast. He's acquired many, many good results. He's acquired a future in the sport as well. Started as a part-timer, just trying to beat down the doors. Now he's a full-timer. Now he's probably one of the most popular drivers on the internet when it comes to F1 Twitter. He's a podcaster himself, very successful podcaster himself. The man that we are talking about is Marcus Armstrong. Marcus, appreciate you being on the show, my friend. I know that you're over the sea right now, so it's later for you than it is for us, and we appreciate that. So thanks for being here. How you feeling, my friend? What's going on in your off season?
Wow, what an introduction that was. I feel so pumped up after that. Like, I kind of want you to give me like my pre-race speech or something, because I feel like I'm some sort of superstar.
I mean, you are. There's no doubt about it.
Is this a split screen? Can you guys see me? Can the audience see me at the same time as you're speaking?
I think so, yes. Yeah, we kind of do that because it's audio too. So this is on the Apple Podcast, this is on the Spotify. So not only will people just be able to listen to you, but they can see you as well. So we can do whatever we want with our hands.
So they'll see my facial expression when you were giving that introduction. Okay, got it.
All right, they're going to know the truth.
To answer your question, Connor, my off season has been very low key. Haven't been doing a whole lot. I couldn't actually tell you what I've been doing. Just been hanging out, following my nose, seeing where it leads me. And you're right, I'm currently in London right now in my apartment here. And I was in Italy last week. I went to Maranello for a little bit, where I spent
Ferraris?
Many years. Yes, hang out with some old friends and just socialized with a lot of people that didn't speak English. That was cool. And just sort of, did a whole lot of nothing. So I think it's part of the, the season flow. Once the season ends, you sort of want to let your hair out, so to speak, and do random stuff whilst you can, and then build up the appetite to get back to work. So you know the drill. And I'm actually going to come back to Indy later this week. So Are you going to be back in time for the test? Are you coming back to check out the little Indianapolis Motor Speedway test this week? Yes, I will. I'm not driving, but I'll be there to keep a close eye on you, mates. I don't know. Are you driving that test?
Yes, I am. I am participating. Yes, I noticed your teammate. Say which team? Yeah, of course, JHR. Yeah, it was all over the internets today. So we were talking about it, doing my thing in the 78. Your boss / teammate, Elio Castroneves, is testing for the MSR camp. So are you excited to see the 4-time champ at work?
I am. Obviously, he knows a thing or two about driving around there. So that's going to be cool to see. He's going to be working with my crew as well. So seeing how he interacts with them will be interesting. I'm sure he's going to have some profound perspective on the whole situation. And knowing him, he'll be also guiding everyone in the right direction. So honestly, I don't really have any predetermined ideas on what to do that day. I just kind of want to hang out and see what's happening. And obviously, it's a new journey for the Meyershank Racing crew. So I want to be there for that, the first proper day that we collaborate together. And I think Helio's the man to do it. He's the man to sort of bond the two teams together, so to speak. So it's going to be fun. And I'm going to enjoy just being at the track and not actually having to be locked in for a change.
The old Brazilian wizard. That's Elio. He is he's an ageless man. He loves wearing his earplugs at all times. And boy, does he have something funny to say, it feels like every single time he's around. So I can't wait for you guys to interact. That's going to be awesome. You mentioned this integration of sorts, right? Obviously, you're able to bring your kind of crew from CGR this year engineering sorts, some sort of collaboration there. And I think that'll be great, right? It's people that you've been working with before. It's people that you know and understand, but maybe new for some of the people on their side. So how's that integration been so far? And I assume it's an exciting position to be in working with this group.
It certainly is, and it's a fantastic opportunity to actually build on what we've done this season, because I mean the people that my engineers that I'll be working with directly, and also with Felix, actually I've spent the entire year with. So I have my race engineer Angela Ashmore still with me, and our other engineers as well. So I think that's a big positive, because as you know, having some sort of continuity is really quite nice, especially in motorsport where the paddock is small, obviously, but people are always being mixed and matched, if that makes sense. So
myself, that's it. That's all my entire life. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a mix and match. I'm like one of those frozen yogurt places, and you could just put whatever flavor you want in it. That's my whole career.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. I mean, you've probably worked with everyone in the paddock at this point. I actually watched the podcast with forgotten his name, but Joseph's race engineer.
Oh, Luke. Yeah, Luke Mason. Yeah. Nice. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, I legitimately I listened to that when I was doing an hour plank a couple of days ago. I'm not
nice.
Sort of
great work.
Here we go.
Big plank
time,
guy,
dude.
Yeah.
2 forms of punishment in one. No, I'm kidding.
Nailed it.
Yo.
Hey, someone had to be that guy, and we'll be those guys in your ears. That's fine.
No, it was pretty cool to actually hear that he worked with you once upon a time, and how his experiences have been, etc., etc. I won't spoil it for your listeners, but yes, Angela and I have worked together really well this season, and I feel like there's been many times where we've deserved a result that we haven't necessarily gotten, which, I would say the majority of the grid feels that they had on occasion this year. So it's not unusual. But the good thing is we get to sort of attack it again together. And it's such a competitive championship. Like, I know that it's quite a generic thing to say, but the very small details make a big difference in the end. Even if they seem so small, it does add up. And being around people that you're familiar with, it does pay off. And next year's exciting. It just kind of sucks a bit that we have a 6-month off season or something, 5 months.
Yeah. It's not great. But you talk about the group, right? You 14th in the championship, which again, I don't think that's fair to how well you did this year. I mean, 4 top 5s, 8 top 10s. I mean, that's a lot of top 10s in this championship. It's very difficult to acquire those top 10s. And I think overall, you have to be, pretty excited about a lot of the things that you were able to accomplish this year. Give us kind of like an overall summary of your season. I would say you did mention very close to a couple good results, but also maybe just kind of right there. But you're still so young. I mean, you're just still getting used to the ovals. So you still probably have a lot to learn there too, right?
The ovals it feels like a different sport at times, especially when I first started. And I love it. I want to say that for a start. It's one of those things that I sort of came into it and I didn't know a lot about it. Obviously, I've watched it on TV for my entire life, but to actually compete at the highest level on an oval is very different. And even watching it last season when Takuma was in my car, it's not necessarily, I didn't learn nearly as much as I did at my first oval race. And to actually drive it and feel the flow and everything, it's quite difficult to describe. And I've had to do it a lot lately because obviously I've been here in Europe, talking to quite a few of the drivers here, a lot of F2, F3 guys, and they're all very curious about ovals, and it's really difficult to explain just how difficult it is, because it's more so about feeling and less about analysis, if that makes sense. Obviously, but I feel like I know enough now to know that I know nothing. That's the that's the
It's a good way to put it, honestly. Yeah.
Because we had a couple of decent results on ovals.
A couple maybe missed strategies. There were a couple, Marcus trying to do 2 stops at Milwaukee might not have been the right way to do. Maybe that was maybe a small miss there.
Dude,
tried hard.
Dude, that first stint. Oh, I wish I had my onboard for that stint, because if there was ever a moment where it was like oval racing in the rain, that was it. It was like, I don't think I turned in one time for that whole stint. I was just
Yikes.
like, but it was like, sort of a plan that we didn't think it was going to be that bad, but
that was tough.
I think in the end we were trying to do, it was a 2-stop. So not ideal, but nevertheless, we certainly had a go at it, and it was fun, and you live and learn, don't you? But what else? The second Milwaukee race, we got boosted off as well. So it was kind
tough.
of like, yeah. Milwaukee was a whole lot of what could have been, what could have happened, what ifs. And I obviously saw you come around me at the speed of light on the first lap. Like literally, I just saw this green flash come past me.
Well,
and about 15 others.
Yeah, I mean, look, someone had to do it, right? I guess it didn't work the next day, so people learned. Also, it didn't work because you guys all crashed into each other at the start, which not your fault. Obviously, you were victimized aggressively, which did not look like a fun experience. But though, I would say, speaking of that, though, again, near misses in your championship, right? You had 2 races at Milwaukee that I believe your car and you yourself very fast, but that's 2 full races that you lose in a championship battle, right? And that's impossible to come back from in this type of a champ.
It certainly is, and I tried not to think about it really, because I think we were fighting for a decent spot in the championship up until then, after Portland anyway. And now I'm going to embarrass myself. Was Portland before or after Milwaukee? I don't know.
Portland was before.
Right, it was before.
Yes.
So we're in a decent position after Portland, and those 2 races in Milwaukee obviously didn't go to plan, but we qualified, I think, 3rd and 5th maybe.
Yes.
And, it's one of those things, but, it's cool because I didn't expect that to come, especially after that test. We obviously did a test before that race in Milwaukee, and to be honest with you, it didn't go very well. I had never been there before. The track felt very unnatural to me. There was no banking, obviously.
Yeah.
And it may have been the first time I was on a short oval. I can't remember if it was Iowa or Milwaukee test. But in any case, the test before the race didn't go very well, and I obviously did a lot of research and work with the team to try and rectify that for the race weekend. And then suddenly we arrived for free practice, and we had a lot of performance straight away out the gate, which is amazing to have when you have a fast car. As soon as you leave the pit lane, it's
good.
It's a great feeling.
Feels great.
Yeah, especially in qualifying. My qualifying felt very underwhelming, and we had 2 very good laps. So it was going to be a strong weekend for us. But nevertheless, it's momentum we can take into next season. So I'm actually not dwelling on it. I'm trying to be Mr. Positive, but you did well that weekend as well, man. Like, you were 3rd in the first race, and then I completely forgot what happened in the second race, but
clutch failure, it's fine, no big deal. But we know how it goes, yeah. But let's talk about one other oval, because I would like to. It's been a while since you've been on this show, and I want to talk about your Indy 500, right? So that's a bit of a new experience, right? A bit of a challenging one, but kind of let the fans know, let the people know what you thought of it, how you thought it went, and kind of what you want to do as soon as you show up there next year.
Yeah, obviously we didn't have a very good 500 because we had an engine failure on lap 5 or 6.
Exactly. Very short day.
It was a short day. It was a long day.
It's a long month.
Yeah, it certainly is. And that was my first oval as well. So there was a lot of things coming at me quickly, pun not intended. There was a lot of learning going on that month. And, the 500 is something else. There is so much effort and emphasis put on that one race, not to mention the amount of eyeballs that are on you, which, to be honest with you, doesn't affect me at all. I'm in my own bubble. But it does add to the atmosphere and the excitement of the race. So it's obviously different to normal. And the fact that it was my first oval, I wasn't able to relax into it and just sort of trust my instinct like I would normally do. I was sort of having to think about everything 2 or 3 times before I did it. So, as amazing as it is to have someone like Dario Franchitti telling you every 15 seconds to do this better and that better, ultimately I need to go out there and feel it for myself, right? So, and then experience it, know what I did, and just sort of rely on that experience. I didn't have that, so there was just a lot more thinking than what happened in Nashville, for example, which, to be honest, Nashville was very natural and it felt great. That oval I actually really enjoyed. I enjoyed every minute of that weekend. And I'm hoping that I take that same approach into Indy next year, because it's a phenomenal event and I also want to enjoy it. As much as I want to win it, I want to enjoy it. So next year is going to be a completely different Indy 500 for me on every single level. And I'm looking forward to it, man. The thing is, I'm thinking about it now, which is, I don't even know if it's a positive thing.
Well, it's exciting. I mean, I love to hear how excited you are about it. Because, again, I saw you the evening after the 500, and obviously a tough day to end so short. But you really still have so much to experience. You've got to go through the practice, the qualifying, the start of the race. But there's so much more left for you to experience, which I think is really exciting. Chase, I'm going to let you jump in here and get a question in.
So to come back to where we are now in the off season, the announcement's been made. You're with Meyershank Racing. How much time have you had with Jim and Mike? And when I say Mike, especially Mike, we got to interview Mike on this program earlier in the year, so we got to know a lot about him. But how much have you gotten to know about the team, the whole operation there, and how you're going to best fit into that team when you get there?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to finally be able to talk about it, because there was a little period there where we had to keep our mouths closed. But yeah, I also know Felix very well, and Felix actually coached me when I was very, very young in Formula 4. Believe it or not, I'm actually quite old now. And
Coach Felix.
Yeah, Felix was coaching me in Formula 4 in Monza. I don't remember a lot about what he said, but I do remember him telling me I should start my quali lap 4 seconds behind the car in front, and that was like the sweet spot. And in the end, I actually started the lap about 3/10 behind the car in front and passed the car into turn 1. But I pulled it. I just wanted to let you know.
Shout out.
So he was coaching me, but I didn't necessarily listen to him.
Love it.
So he's awesome. And Mike and Jim, obviously great guys, very passionate about the team and their personnel. Jim has been, very generous and communicative with me. That's the first thing I noticed. And he's actually going to New Zealand this month or next month. And what is it? It's October this month. So he's been quizzing me on where to go in New Zealand. And so it's been quite a personal relationship already, which is quite nice. And it's sort of a tough part of the year because, yes, the season has just ended, but you almost want to crack on straight away and get back to work, which, like I mentioned to you earlier, it's kind of like you do need a bit of time off to reset, but, I want to get straight back into it and get to know everyone better and be analytical and try and find ways to win races next year. So, like I said, I'm going to come back to Indy this week, and we're going to spend the week together and just see how it's all going.
I can give you some notes on some brownie points real quick. If you have, if you're around Mike, just pull out like a Van Halen playlist. Play a lot of Van Halen while you're working out. If you're getting ready for a race, I'm talking. You and Mike will be like that. If you just blare some Van Halen, it's real. So just a little food for thought.
All right, thanks for the advice.
Food for thoughts. I have so much respect for that group over there. I'm very excited. Obviously, Mike and Jim have had a relationship with the Andretti Global team, right? And now they're moving on to this relationship with Chip Ganassi Racing, which I think is fantastic. But the mechanics there, the people, some of the best people that I've ever enjoyed working with. So I think you guys are going to fit in fantastically there. Let's talk a little bit about Marcus Armstrong, the man away from the racetrack. I think you have this very unique personality and something that I believe away from the track might be one of the funniest dudes that I've ever met in my life. Can you talk about how you like to enjoy interacting with other human beings and where you got this sense of humor and where did that come from?
Oh man, that's one hell of a question in last there, man.
Who are you?
Yeah, who is Marcus Armstrong, the man?
Who is Marcus Armstrong?
That reminds me of when I was a young boy in the Ferrari Driver Academy, and I'm going to tell this story, and hopefully I don't get in trouble. But one of the first meetings I had with one of the bosses of the FDA was, Marcus, who are you? And I said, well, I'm a racing driver, and he goes, no, Marcus, who are you? And I said, I don't know. I'm a human being, I guess. No, Marcus, who are you? And I said, I don't know, man. I'm just like, I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. And ultimately, it was almost like a therapy session in the end because I don't really know who I am.
Oh, wow, they got to you.
So are you sort of asking me on the really spiritual level, or are we just Marcus Armstrong, the personality?
I think that you're very funny, and I think that you need to let people, obviously you have a podcast, right? So is that something that has got you to just be you and be like, I'm just going to be this guy who enjoys talking about motorsport, who is very talented behind the wheel? And do you think you are able to let your personality out of the cage? Are you able to do that?
I feel like I probably need to answer this question the most politically correct way possible because I don't want to get in trouble ever.
Yes,
but,
we don't want anyone to be put in jail or social media jail for sure.
There have been times when I've been like put together with, like even Dario, for example, with him and I doing media events together. It's generally not a good idea because we both sort of are bad influences on each other. But
we've actually asked Dario to be on this show, and he was too hungover to be on the show because he just raced a Goodwood. So he has not been on the show yet, but we definitely know why he wasn't on the show yet.
Yeah, it's him and I are quite a bad combos and never put him and I together. But I had my own podcast, and the idea of that was firstly to do a crude rip-off of our favorite radio show in New Zealand, which is the Hauraki Big Show. Don't know if you've heard of it, Connor, but it's the single greatest form of entertainment in the world. Have a look at it on Spotify. And I've actually tried to go in their show numerous times, and every single time they decline. So I'm quite humbled.
They left you on red.
Yeah, they did. But you know what? I prefer it that way because I am not cool enough to be on that show. And anyways, our podcast is a bit like that, like quite casual and sort of, we wanted to show our personalities and not exactly talk too much about motorsport because generally when drivers get together, we talk too much about racing. We end up, there have been times we've been out for dinner with a driver and other people, other friends, and we'll talk about like tire pressures and cambers for half an hour. Yep. And it's just the most punishing form of conversation. So we decided that every time that someone brought up the word tire deg, we were going to take a shot of tequila, and everyone.
I love that.
The person that
There
said
you go.
Talladega had to take a shot of tequila, which was
You're an
big
innovator.
subject. Back in the Formula 2 days, you'd have, Talladega was the word, was the phrase. Because you'd do about 3 minutes on the tire, and the tire would literally disintegrate.
Yeah, I remember that from my F3 days, Pirelli. Oh boy, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so we just sort of wanted to talk really about our personal lives and bro down with each other, and not really have any lingering thoughts about potentially getting told off, which generally we would edit the podcast down to the point where, we had nothing to worry about. But it's just, it's fun to sort of show our true colors in that sense. I don't do a lot of podcasting anymore just because I'm living in the States now. So, and my mates are here in the UK, but it's also a blessing in disguise because you can't put all your effort and energy into being the best athlete / racing driver you can be, and also be sort of a podcast personality. In my opinion, you can do it.
Thanks.
You're obviously.
It's kind of a direct. It's kind of direct.
Is that a direct attack? No big deal. That's fine. All right.
Yeah.
Luckily, I don't have a full-time job, so
See,
this
blunt.
is actually
He's blunt. He can't help it, and that's why it's good. He's a blunt guy.
No, but that makes sense because I actually do not have a full-time job other than this.
Connor, you're built different, my friend.
That's it. That's what we're waiting on.
But then again, you weren't taking shots of tequila whenever you said Talladega, so there's a small difference.
That's a fair point.
But I love podcasting and it's fun, and coming on the show is also fun because you two are great personalities too. So we wanted to have you on the Screaming Wheels podcast quite a while ago, Connor.
I was going to ask that. I have not been on this program. It almost happened, but it did not happen. I don't know why that did not happen. Maybe someday it will.
Yeah, for sure. You are the perfect racing driver to come on the show because I feel like it'd be quite easy not to talk about racing with you somehow.
Yes, 1,000%. I, in fact, hope we don't talk about racing at all, which is fine.
There's a lot going on.
I actually enjoy.
We got some fun convos.
The best part about this show is I believe we try to get people to understand racing at a higher level because there's so much about racing that people don't get and they don't ever get told about. But I also like basically just telling people like, hey, there's a lot more to us than just racing too, which is fun. And I believe that that's enjoyable to talk.
Well, IndyCar in particular, there's a lot to dissect because these cars are, even though it's an older car, 2012,
older than you
chassis
almost,
has been around.
Yeah.
Which is almost as old as me. I feel like, almost as old as Kiffin, perhaps. But
yes.
The target is always moving. It's like I've never been in a category where, take thermal, for example, earlier in the year, in the morning, I was P3 and the car felt like an absolute rocket ship. By 3 p.m., it felt like a completely different category of car, and I was P14 or something, and just after a couple of hours of track temperature rising and track evolution, suddenly it's upside down. So there's so much to analyze with this championship, which is one of the reasons why I love it, at the risk of sounding quite boring and everything else. But it's such a challenge. And Formula 2, for example, I think I would have said this on your show last time. I think I did. But for whatever reason, in Formula 2, if you had a strong car in Bahrain, the first race of the season, you also had a strong car the last race of the season in Abu Dhabi. And I don't know how or why it's like that, but IndyCar can change from hour to hour.
Yes. It's
Cars
so true.
a lot.
That's what makes this championship, I think, it's so competitive and so difficult. And I love that you've actually mentioned that. But before we take up too much of your evening, I would like to know, we are in the month of, I have two more questions. One being, we are deep into our off season, which sadly starts much earlier than many other championships. But where do you see the future of IndyCar going? We have a new television package. We have a new race that was literally announced today for 2026, the Grand Prix of Arlington, which is going to be, partnered with the Dallas Cowboys owner, the manager of the Texas Rangers baseball team. There's this exciting, street race that's coming to the streets of Arlington. But where do you think the future of IndyCar lies? Are you excited about what we're doing as a championship? And what do you think needs to be an improvement?
Yeah, that's a difficult question because I could say a lot and say too much and then subsequently get told off. But no, I didn't actually know about this street race being announced in Texas until you mentioned it half an hour ago.
Yeah, newsbreakers.
Yeah, thanks for that, bro. I think it's awesome. I mean, I personally love street racing, and I watch David Land on YouTube.
Yes.
And he has quite a firm stance against it for whatever reason. And it's not as if I prefer it over an oval or a road course, but I think street racing in an IndyCar is an unbelievable experience from a driving point of view. And from my unbiased opinion as well, the racing is pretty phenomenal as well. I mean, take Toronto, for example. It was anything could have happened in that afternoon, and it did. I mean, there was a car upside down, sure, that was not great. But
yes.
There was overtaking, there was a variance of strategy in every form. Dixon did Dixon things, went long and overcut everyone. And I think that street racing is amazing in IndyCar because you can actually race, you can overtake. I hate to bring it back to my F2 days, but you race in Monaco and F2, where you start is where you finish. And in IndyCar, it is simply not the case. I mean, there are so many opportunities to go forwards. And occasionally, last year, my first instinct was on a street circuit, if you survive, you will, if you don't take yourself out in one way or another, you will end up in a decent position. But in order to actually win the race, you need the afternoon to go perfectly because there is just so much talent on the grid. I mean, I think qualifying on a street circuit is one of my favorite things in the world in IndyCar. When you put on those reds, you have 5% more grip. It's just a great experience. And from my opinion, it's fun to watch as well. And then, obviously, we'd all love to see the racing go international in one way or another. I mean, obviously, I don't have anything to do with the business side, and I do not want to have anything to do with it, frankly. But if you look at the NFL, Aaron Rodgers, my boy, was playing yesterday here in London, and that's
big Aaron Rodgers guy. Did not expect that at all today.
We just figured it out, dude. My knee.
Big Jets guy. But don't know if I should be saying that when the Cowboys have just announced the race. But
it's all right.
Low key, I'm just gonna name drop here. He DM'd me one time. Just saying.
Aaron Rodgers DM'd you?
Just saying, bro.
Sounds like y'all
day
were
of my
boys.
life.
Wild.
What do you say?
Did not expect that today. Nor did I expect that in the future of IndyCar question, but I love that.
Well, I have to give a shout out to our Ganassi PR girl, Melanie, because she was the one who put a video of me saying how I'm now a Jets fan, in which he DM'd me saying, big ups, something like this.
Love that.
Whenever you want a ticket, give me a shout. So, Aaron, I haven't actually pulled you up on that, but he is my favorite NFL player. Anyway, we are distracting ourselves.
Love that.
To race, obviously, in Mexico would be great. That's obviously there's a big fan base there with Paso, and I think there's a lot of cool circuits over there. And even to race here in England, I mean, that would be crazy. I think that the amount of IndyCar fans that are in Europe, people probably underestimate it.
Yes,
maybe in America they do, but here in Europe, Italy, and the UK, IndyCar is very big. And even though there's not a lot of English drivers, maybe only Callum now, without Jack, I don't think there's any other English drivers, but it's massive here, and people would love to see it here in the UK. Even if it was out of the way, if it wasn't at a Silverstone, if it was at a smaller circuit, I'm sure it'd be a great success.
What would you think about an oval?
Oh, I mean, that would be awesome as well. I mean, I always thought the Lausitzring in Germany would be quite cool for an oval race. I think it happened a long time ago, but that I actually raced there in Formula 4, and I always thought it'd be quite cool to do the oval. And then, I mean, racing in Australia at Surfers Paradise would be incredible.
Huge.
That would
I always say the same thing. Love that.
And Australia loves IndyCar as well. I mean, perhaps people in America haven't realized it, but it is hugely, hugely popular in our side of the world. In Australia and New Zealand, obviously Scott Dixon is a legend of the sport, but in New Zealand he's extremely well known. Scott McLaughlin as well. Don't know who that Armstrong kid is, but the two others, they're going to draw a big crowd just on their own. And Will Power, obviously. So I would love to race in Australia, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of Australian fans pushing for that now that I've said it. But I have hope that it will happen in the future. I don't know exactly the details, but that's just my naive opinion.
Well, I love that. I appreciate your answers. That was honestly tremendous. Before we take up again your entire afternoon, let's get one more question in. I want to know what you'd like to be for Halloween this year.
This is a big one.
Big one,
man. Well, hang on. You answer first. What are you going to go as?
My answer is I have no idea. My answer is I need to understand. I literally talked about this in our show already, and my girlfriend is very good at it. She is incredible at Halloween. I am nervous. I am very. It's a self-esteem thing for me. I'm tough. I'm tough at understanding what I need to be because I don't have any self-esteem. So I feel like could be a very confident human being, and when you show up for Halloween, you know what's going on.
Well, you were okay. So you've already given one thing away. You're tough. You said that 3 or 4 times. That's good to know.
No, tough as in tough that I don't know what I'm doing.
All right. He's a tough guy, dude. Don't lie.
Obviously, your partner, what does she want to go as? Because that's vital to the
Well, she doesn't tell me. It's a secret.
Right.
There's like no couple things going on here. Like, Mark, this is what we're talking about. Like, he told me that they're not even doing like a couples thing. So that's why I'm like, this is tough. It really is.
Okay, Connor, if I could choose an outfit for you, it would be to go as Slutty Cat because they're pretty common. And
you could see it. You could see it.
Did not expect that one, but all right. Here we are.
Oh, God, dude. That's not going to leave the brains of anyone now. Like, that's probably what you're going to have to be, dude. You're probably going to have to be that now. It's
I would pay good money. In fact, I would even pay for the outfit to see you wear that. Can we make this happen?
Okay, this Marcus, what would you like to be for Halloween this year?
All right. All right. So the politically correct answer, I suppose, would be to go as. So I guess I'll be in the States for Halloween, and I'll go to a get together with another driver, and then I'll probably just. I mean, what we did a couple of years ago was we did a sort of a suit swap. So me and Clement Novalak, we went to a party and I wore his suit, he wore mine, and we sort of went as each other's heroes, so to speak. And it was...
You can't be a race car driver for Halloween, dude.
I tell you what, man.
You can't do it.
Do that. Come to my neck of the woods, mate. It's a decent outfit. I wouldn't say it's great, it's decent. The next one, which was a suggestion by my little sister because I'm a single Pringle and ready to mingle, is to go as the dude from Gossip Girl. I don't know.
Okay.
A lot of the girls like that guy.
Yes.
Harry?
Hello.
And here she is. Now, what's the person from Gossip Girl that you suggested I go as?
Chalk?
Chuck Bass.
So you do it like, hey, there's two of his friends, Nate and Chuck. Just Google it. Every girl loves both of them. They either like one or the other.
There you go.
You're either like Nate Archibald or Chuck Bass, which is like they're like rich people that live in New York.
You can kind of pull that off, Connor.
Shows based off.
Okay.
Awesome.
You can say that you're looking for your Blair Waldorf. That's what you can say to the ladies that you want. Google it. You'll find all the information you need.
There you go.
Tremendous. Loved it.
That's my sister's first appearance on a podcast. So
love that.
Congrats.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's a perfect way to end our show as well. I respect this. This is a tremendous.
Oh my God!
This is a tremendous way to end the show. I love it.
We're not going to
shout out
forget
the Armstrong
about
family.
What's that?
No, shout out the
we're not
Armstrong
forget
family.
about his idea.
Back from the gym.
Yes.
What we say?
We love it.
All right, thanks, Connor.
All right,
man.
Marcus.
It's been a great podcast.
Appreciate you. We appreciate you being on this program. And before you leave, please don't leave because we have to get the audio uploaded. But thank you, my friend. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Connor. Appreciate it, mate. Hopefully that was a satisfactory performance on my half.
Well, shout out Marcus Armstrong for being with us. Great dude. He is truly a young superstar, and he is very popular on F1 Twitter. A lot of people from F1 Twitter, as we sure will talk about. So, shout out Marcus. With that, let us move into kind of previewing next week. So next week will be cool because we can talk about the IMS test. I'm sure there'll be a lot of things that we can discuss there. I'm sure there'll be some more IndyCar news this week that pops that we will be able to chat about. And then really next weekend, I have off. So next weekend, we will maybe try to come up with some new segments. Who knows who's going to be our guest? Still trying to get a team owner on the show. I think that we had Mike Shank on the show a long time ago, which was really good. But definitely want to try to get maybe more of the ownership, maybe even like a Barry Wanzer, like a race strategist, to kind of give us like a Mike Hall would be good too. But we'll see what we can get, see who we can get involved. But with that, let's move on to the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week.
The greatest event of its kind that's ever been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. Who make up the field?
All right, this week we have the 1939 Indianapolis 500. We went to 1939, won by a very familiar name, Wilbur Shaw. But we went with the where did he go? The 14th place finisher, Tony Willman. So Tony Willman is someone that I don't believe we have had on the Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week segment before, and if we have, that'd be a darn shame. But Tony Willman was a American race car driver. Sadly, he was killed in a midget racing accident, midget cars. Willman started racing in 1926, limited racing during the 1930s because of the Great Depression. Obviously, what a wild time to be alive. That significantly hurt Willman's career. Only 31 national events were held in 8 years. So Willman raced in Midwestern regional and local races. Willman won the 1934-35 Indoor Midget Championship circuit of races in Milwaukee, Detroit, St. Louis, and Chicago. Toured the Midwest for the 1936 outdoor season and won 145 races in 1936. Oh, in 1936, Willman won the Hankinson Speedway Circuit Championship. Shout out Hankinson Speedway Circuit. That's wild. He won the 1939 track championship at the quarter-mile track inside the Wisconsin State Fair Park, which is now the Milwaukee Mile. Shout out Milwaukee Mile. We love the Milwaukee Mile. So love that. Willman had misfortune at the Indianapolis 500 with his car breaking down during all 4 of his races while he was doing well. I thought I had bad luck, and we had another car break down once again while I was driving it, but shout out poor Tony Willman. Goodness gracious.
That's tough.
Yeah. What do you see about Tony there? You see anything else exciting about him? He had personal life, some there.
He kind of had a bounce back in 41. It was his most successful year, won 33 midget car races and the AAA National Short Track Championship. That was 1 week before his death. Willman lapped the entire 32-card field in a 100-lap midget car event. So what a way to go out, I would say, for Willman right there. That's a pretty big accomplishment. He also had a son named Eugene, and I feel like the words on this were kind of weird. It says Eugene, who ended up becoming a midget car building and owner. So he became a building, according to Wikipedia. Maybe he wants to check their spell check.
Builder, maybe builder is the right.
Yeah,
again, this is
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia.
A wild time to become a building.
Yeah, this is Wikipedia. We do not know if any of this information is true. Most of it could be false, but let's hope that we have a little bit of a record keeping here. So 1937, he was in the Indy 500. 1938, 39, and 41. And again, every single car broke down that he was driving. But even though he broke down every single year, his best finish was 14th. So shout out Tony Willman. R.I.P. Tony. We respect your career. And glad that you were also good at Milwaukee. Love that. So that's our show. We appreciate you guys. Please let us know what you think of the show as usual. Maybe you've already shut the show off by now. Maybe not. Maybe you're still checking it out. You're like, maybe there are a couple little tasty nuggets here at the end of the show. I don't have any other tasty nuggets that I know of. Still no thank you tweet to Renus VK. Still no the thank you.
That's a good one to watch.
Remains at still going. Yeah. So would love to see some sort of social media thank you to Renus VK for all the work he did. But shout out that. So
maybe
anyway, we'll
you
talk
should
to you
just
next
thank
week.
him. If you're listening to this,
I'm
thank
just
him.
gonna thank him. Yeah,
thank him online.
Someone tweet.
Yeah,
send Renus VK. Thank you for what you've done in several years.
Yes.
At ECR. So we
Tag
appreciate the
squad.
folks that listen to this show. We will talk to you next week on Speed Street. Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.